My name's Wolf, and through this series of videos I'm going to introduce you to the crazy over-the-top world that nerds like me love so much, that is Warhammer 40,000. So get comfy, buckle in, and prepare for a Noob-Splaining session. In the grim darkness of the far future there is only war, which suits the Orcs perfectly. In this video I'm going to teach you all the basics you need to know about the Orcs who are the comic relief of the 40k universe, complete with a dodgy faux Cockney accent. But first, in preparation for hitting that 100 subs, if you have any questions for me or you have a pile of shame, I want to see it. So email your questions and or pics of your pile of shame to ama.noobsplain@gmail.com. Let's see if your pile of shame is bigger than mine. While you're at it, hit that subscribe button and at the end of the vid, let me know if you liked it and leave a comment on what you thought was the best bit. Right, let's get into it. The Orcs of Warcraft are big, brutal and intelligent. The Orcs of 40k got the first two of those characteristics and that's it. They're big, brutal and dumber than the plot of a Fast and Furious movie. Orcs live to fight.
Orcs is made for fighting!
Literally, just like a character from an action RPG game, they grow bigger the more they fight, and the biggest of each Orc tribe being in charge. Their way of life, just like their IQ levels, is quite simple. Might is right. Their skin is green to represent the amount of money you need to give Games Workshop to collect an Orc army. If you're looking at getting an Orc army, you need to face the fact your collection will probably have 4 times the amount of models a Space Marine army will have. So I hope you like painting green.
Green is best!
And don't mind not buying luxuries like, say, food. Seriously though, Orcs are green, as they are actually a bioengineered race that is half fungus and half savage warrior. Originally called Crocs, created by the Old Ones to beat up Necrons. With the Necrons going for their 60 million year nap, this left the Orcs with no one to beat up, so they actually devolved down into the 8-foot muscle-bound axe-wielding killers that are literally everywhere in the galaxy. Which reminds me, I owe you all an apology. In my previous vids I keep saying the Necrons took a 60,000 year nap. My bad, it was 60 million. Anyway, Orcs are arguably the most successful species in the galaxy, as they are both the most numerous and happy as hell. Orcs live to fight anything, and if there is no other races nearby, they will fight each other. Thanks to the fungus-based nature of their biology, they release spores that grow into more Orcs. The only way to truly get rid of an Orc infestation is the same way you deal with a spider in the house. Flamethrowers, and lots of them. They also feel next to no pain, and having much less internal organs than other races makes them somewhat tough to kill. Orcs are portrayed as green-skinned hordes charging the enemy lines with guns blazing in one hand and axes in the other. In hand-to-hand combat they can best a Space Marine, but when it comes to shooting they're about as accurate as a cross-eyed giraffe with a concussion. They don't fire in single shots though, and when you're rolling all the dice, and however many dice your opponent brought, you're going to hit something. So as well as having to buy way more models than anyone else, you're also going to need to buy all the green paint within a 10-mile radius, and every 6-sided dice in a 30-mile radius. But hey, who needs food? Orcs organise themselves into small groups of boys, with the biggest among them called a Nob, and he is the de facto leader of those boys. Get enough groups of boys and the biggest Nob will take charge of them all and become a war boss. Once a war boss emerges, other Orcs in the area will instinctively flock to his banner, in preparation for a violent migration called a Wah, or a
Wah!
The objective of a Wah is to get into as many fights as possible.
Where's the fighting?
And loot the fuck out of everything that remains.
Let's get looting!
Once you have enough Orcs in proximity of each other, a very small number of them will have nascent skills and knowledge awakening them in what is believed to be programmed into every Orc's DNA. You just need enough of them nearby to activate these so-called Odd Boys. The most common types are Pain Boys, which is the Orc version of a doctor, Weird Boys, who are the Psychers, and Mech Boys, who are the Orcs that build all the guns, tanks and things that go boom.
Wake up, boys! It's time for fighting!
This is where we need to discuss the Orc's superpower, the Orc power of belief. Now if Orcs all believe in something, it comes true. After battles, Orc machine guns have been opened up just to reveal it's a box with a barrel and some random scrap metal inside. But the Orcs believe it's a machine gun, so in an Orc's hand it becomes an 800 rounds per minute boomstick. It still amazes the other races how literal boxes full of scrap become working engines for the Orcs, the same way a mechanic looks shocked when you pop the hood of a Ford and claim it's all working properly. This power of belief also spreads to colours, so any vehicle painted red goes faster, any shooter painted blue is lucky, and any munitions painted yellow yield bigger explosions. Although this Orc belief is powered by the warp energies along with Psyker's lightning blast abilities, because all the Orcs believe the power actually comes from the power of the and not the warp, this stops demons possessing their Psykers. Most Orc guns are just straight up ballistic weapons similar to what we have on modern day. However, they do have some insanely powerful heavy weapons that are just as likely to blow up and kill the Orcs as it is to kill your units. Orcs also never lose a battle either. Not literally, but figuratively. Due to the limited level of intelligence they have, if they win, they win. If they die, they don't know if they won or lost, so it doesn't count, and if they run away, they can come back later with more boys for another go, so in their eyes, they can never lose. Although the Orcs can field some really heavy armoured units and some really big guns, the bulk of an Orc is made up of boys with guns and axes. The groups of boys are always like-minded, and this is where you get the different Orc clans. Many other YouTubers have done great videos on the different clans. To put it bluntly, the clans of Orcs explain the different types of infantry or units. So the Evil Sons clan really like going fast, so we're all mounted in bikes and buggies. The Bad Moons are the richest of all the Orcs, and this explains why they have the best armour and the biggest guns. Goths are the most brutal, so prefer melee combat, and so on. When it comes to religion, Orcs have two gods called Gork and Mork.
For Gork and Mork!
They have two, because if you only have one god, who is that god going to fight? Now the two Orc gods are very, very different to each other, in another amazing display of sheer intelligence.
Up yours!
So the Orcs say Gork is brutal and cunning, whereas Mork is cunning and brutal, and don't you dare get the two mixed up. Orcs believe that one day a war boss will emerge that is so powerful that it will unite all the Orcs in one massive war band and lead them in an eternal war against everyone, bringing death and destruction to, well, everything. The Orcs call this, wait for it, Ragnarok. Another great example of Games Workshop lore being totally unique and not taking inspiration from anything else.
Job's a good un, boss!
Now with the recent update of the Khazgul model and the lore that he is the prophet of Gork and Mork and is raising the biggest to date, it appears that Ragnarok might be just around the corner. More likely though, around the corner is two Orc clans fighting each other with a bunch of Tyranids waiting to eat them all.
Wake up, boys! It's time for fighting!
Now Orcs are clearly supposed to be the humour of 40k, saying things like instead of war. And once you start reading more on them, you realise they are a brutal, savage, but sometimes hilarious faction.
Sod off!
The Orcs are not the meta army, but they're not a pushover either. Although in other media, like the video games, it's always the Orcs getting a good kick in reality, killing 1 million Orcs barely affects their population, and if you don't immediately burn all the bodies, you will soon have several million Orcs on your hands. Could Khazgul unite the Orcs and destroy the galaxy? Absolutely. Will it happen? Nope. Closest we will get is a huge Orc invasion somewhere, and looking at all the new 10th edition images, we have Tyranids lined up to deal with first. The Orc Combat Patrol box is a great value buy if you're starting out with Orcs, and look at what you get in it compared to a Space Marine starter set. As the contents of the boxes are somewhat balanced-ish, you get an idea how good an Orc is on the table compared to Space Marines. But when the Orcs are rolling that many dice and shooting it gets picked up by seismic monitors, you only need a handful to be lucky, and suddenly half the Space Marines in front of you are permanently no longer a threat. The Orcs are very much a quantity over quality army, but they are very fun to play, because you never know what random shit's going to blow up next.
Job's a good un, boss!
And there we have it. Don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment. Better still, if you know somebody who could do with a bit of noob-splaining on Warhammer, then share this video with them. And at any point, if you learned something or laughed, then please hit that subscribe button. I won't ever be doing a Patreon or a merch store, so that subscribe button is the best way you can show your support and thanks from me.